Hey guys, this is Blake here. I've been trying to review this movie for so long now, but it just never comes out right. It's just a movie that I don't have a whole lot to say about, or I maybe have too much to say about, and I'm stumbling over my words and stuff like that. So let's see if I can finally nail it with this. Now, Fright Night was not a movie that needed to be remade. I know I say that with almost every remake, but believe it or not, I am open-minded to the idea of remaking something. But to me, if you're going to remake something with an interesting story. Example, A Nightmare on Elm Street. A guy haunts kids in their dreams. That, to me, is an interesting story that could withstand a remake. Now, whether you actually liked the remake or not, that's up to you. I personally liked it. On the other hand, a better movie was Halloween. Yeah, that was a stupid one to remake because it has no real story. It's just a dude breaking out of an insane asylum and attacking people. So I don't know why they thought that remaking that would actually end up in a really good movie, because the story is just crap, but it was the execution of the original that made it so good. You just can't replicate that. And if you try too hard to be different, you're just going to lose sight of what made the original so good in the first place. Hence why I thought Rob Zombie's remake was passable. It wasn't anywhere near as good as the original because, like I said, you can't remake a movie like that. Fright Night has a better story than Halloween, I guess, but we've seen too many imitations since the original. If you've seen Disturbia, you've pretty much seen Fright Night, at least the original Fright Night. In fact, I'm actually wondering if Fright Night invented much of the conventions that I often associate with Rear Window, because that's where it all began. Rear Window was about a dude who thinks he witnesses a murder and starts investigating. Fright Night, though, has a lot of cliches and conventions that I have seen in almost all of the Rear Window clones except Rear Window. So Fright Night may have even been the movie that started them. So I can't really hold it against the original too much, but I can't help it because I only saw the original a few months ago, where I've seen all the other clones pretty much before then. So if you're going to remake that, why? We already have Disturbia. All you can do is hope for a better version of that. And does the world necessarily need a better version of Disturbia? Yeah, I was surprised. It's as if the filmmakers of this remake knew that, they're not going to be able to do this right because, we know the story so much. And, the execution of the original story, just like Halloween, was so good that we're not even going to try to emulate it. We're just going to do our own thing, have a lot of fun, and hopefully entertain our audience. And that is why I think a lot of people really liked this movie, or at least were okay with it, because it has no real pretensions. It's just, it wants to be fun. It's lighthearted, yet suspenseful and pretty edgy. It's well acted for the most part, and with a few standout performances. It's just, forgettable, but still fun. I was really impressed with it. So, what else can I really say? Well, compared to the original, first off, in the terms of the story, it's as if they, like as I said, they knew its faults, so they just decided to glance over the usual conventions. Like, the cops are called at one point. Now, in all the other clones, you have this big scene where the main character is trying to prove that, the body is in their garage or something, and then the cops check, and there's nothing there, and then they look really stupid. And this one, he calls the cops, and you just kind of see him watching out the window, and the cops are talking to him. You can only hear a few lines, and the cops leave and never brought up again. The whole thing with the mother, same thing. It's only for a few seconds, and then the mother actually does find out that the dude's a vampire, so that was cool. Granted, that means that there's less, slow burn suspense, stuff that really hits hard by the end of the movie, that I thought Disturbia actually did pretty well. But I think it was a good... it was a good thing that they ended up going that route. With the original, though, I thought it was much more stylish, much more atmospheric. It has some amazingly awesome special effects. I always loved the 80s old school special effects, the practical stuff. Like, I always think of The Howling when the werewolf, when the dude transforms into the werewolf. You just don't get that kind of stuff anymore. So when I watched the original Fright Night, I was like, wow, this is not a great movie, but it's the perfect time capsule for the genre at the time. So I definitely recommend, if you like 80s horror films, definitely check out the original Fright Night. This one, there's not as much style or atmosphere. There's a few moments where the director is definitely, exploiting some really nice camera work, and there's some pretty good photography. But, it's relatively clinical in its style. The only thing is a few camera angles that I thought were pretty cool. But it's not like the original, which was all 80s. I can't really explain it. Where it had fog, weird lighting, none of that here. As I said, it's pretty down to earth. I prefer the original for that, but yeah, I'm okay with this too. The suspense is good. Oddly, the most suspenseful scene for me was when McLovin is being harassed by the vampire early on. I didn't really like the character that much either, which we'll get into in a sec. But, whenever the movie wanted to be suspenseful or intense, I felt it. I wasn't blown away by it, but, I was constantly interested because of it. It moves well. It's not like most of those types of movies which really wait till the finale, including the original. It's maybe about halfway through it becomes nonstop. The finale never reaches the awesomeness of the original, but it's as if since it was being much faster in general, it didn't really feel the need to go all out there. The acting was good. The main guy, he was good. I liked him all right, but it's definitely one of those cases where he's just there to be a competent straight man, because the movie really belongs to Colin Farrell and David Tennant. Now, Colin Farrell I like the most. Great casting choice. He's completely different from the original. In the original, the vampire Jerry, he was, more suave, more charming. He was one of those guys, and when he first is introduced to the main guy formally, he's threatening the guy without actually sounding like he's threatening someone. And it's a really cool scene, and just how the actor plays it. And actually, the guy who played the original cameos in the new one as one of the victims when he crashes into him and he gets eaten. So that's kind of funny, too. But Colin Farrell, though, he's obviously the villain. It's like the movie doesn't even bother trying to, pretend that he isn't. He's just overtly menacing, but it's interesting because the way Colin Farrell plays is he looks at all these people as if they're nothing but food. But he's trying to pretend that he doesn't look at them that way. So it looks like, when you are talking with somebody you really don't like, but you're trying your best to not make that obvious. That's definitely how he plays the role. And I thought it was really interesting. He's pretty creepy at times, but at the same time he's pretty funny too. And with David Tennant, he's hilarious. I had a blast with him. Unfortunately, the movie has absolutely no idea what to do with that character. And the original, the character of Peter Vincent, he represents that movie's old meeting new. Because it was really, because at the time in the 80s, the old had pretty much become really old-fashioned, where it was going toward this more hip, I don't even know how to explain it, more humorous brand of horror. And Fright Night was pretty much the meeting of the old and the new. And Peter Vincent was always there. So since this movie has no real themes like that, obviously the character comes across as a little pointless. They make him into sort of a Chris Angel type guy. But more importantly, he's just not in the movie enough. He just appears a few scenes and suddenly he's the main character in the finale. So that was a disappointment. The only person I thought who I did not like was the guy who played McLovin. I don't even remember his real life name. He plays Evil Ed in this movie. I think he's amusing, and I don't think he necessarily does bad. He just feels out of place. It's like he thinks that he's in a comedy, not in a horror comedy. So when he's talking about how they're going to have to kill the vampire, it seems odd. It just doesn't work. So that was a shame, and honestly, I thought because of that, the laughs, even though it was often amusing, didn't quite gel well with the suspense. Now, in the original, it combined the horror genre and the comedy elements really well. In this one, they don't do it so much. But, yeah, that's really it. I could talk about that all I want. I still thought it was entertaining. It moved well. I'm not going to remember it, and I'm probably not even going to watch it again, but I enjoyed it. I wasn't nearly as angry with it as I've been with most of these movies that have come out in the summer. Even Conan the Barbarian, which I thought was about as good as this, I still tend to get annoyed when I think about it more. Whereas this one, I'm okay with it. I guess my expectations were that low. So if you want to read my written review, check the link in my description. Sometime next week I'll probably review Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, or whatever it's called. So I'll see you guys later.